Good morning and welcome to the launch of Borders. Thank you for making time to be with us this morning. When we meet on Zoom, we meet in time, but we are also all in place. So please feel welcome to introduce yourself in the chat and acknowledge the country you are on today. My name is Rach Kendrigan. I'm the Director of Regenerative Communities and the creative producer of Borders. I'm located on the country of the first people of the Mildura, specifically Lachi Lachi country in Mildura on the banks of the Tongala, also known as the Mighty Murray. I would like to acknowledge that we live, work and create on the lands and waters of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, and they are the traditional custodians of the land, water, animals and spirit of this country. We pay our respects to their elders, past, present and emerging. Generations of First Nations people have danced, performed and told story here for over 60,000 years, and these rich customs and traditions continue in Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander culture today. I would like to begin by acknowledging that Borders is funded through the Regional Arts Australia Regional Arts Fund, through a creative recovery grant, which for us is administered by Regional Arts Victoria. We are very grateful that this investment has been made in our border communities, especially being federal funding, meaning that we are enabled to explore our cross-border collaborations. So the project does extend across regional Vic and New South Wales. The project is being delivered in partnership by two independent organisations based in Mildura, Regenerative Communities and Arts Mildura. So this is the part where I introduced myself. I am a practicing artist, community development worker and regenerative practitioner from the Mallee. For the last 15 years, I have been working across the arts and culture sector, as well as in local food system activation, drought recovery and community planning. I am passionate about building strong rural and regional communities through embracing diversity, developing kinship with our natural resources, and creating localised economies. In 2020, I founded Regenerative Communities, which is my independent community development service based in Mildura. My arts practice explores the intersections between body and place, using methods grounded in body weather. Working across performance, video, drawing and installation, my art serves as a process for understanding systems, awareness and connectivity. As we all know, the pandemic-related border closures of 2020-21 had a massive impact on our communities. And the art sector in particular has been greatly impacted by the disruptions of the pandemic. What I became fascinated with during this time, as I observed the impacts of border closures on the Mildura region, was the fact that a living, breathing, ecological life force had been enforced as a solid, defined political and economic barrier. The Tongala River is Australia's longest river at over 2,500 kilometres, and it is one of the only and the longest ecological feature in mainland Australia that is used as a state border. I feel this creates a contradiction in the way that we relate to place. A river is a gathering place for humans and animals alike. It is rich in resources and life. Pre-colonisation, the Aboriginal population was dense and the river was a place that drew people in. Colonisers were attracted to the river as a place to set up their colonies, which is how many of us ended up here today. But also, it defines us as being on one side or the other, particularly from a political and policy perspective. And during the pandemic, this issue was intensified to the point of our border communities having to fight for our right to our identity, that we are in fact whole communities. Our social and economic functions as communities were severely disrupted. So how do we recover from this? And how can the creative sector lead by example and guide our border communities through a process of regenerating our connection to the river? This is what the Borders project is asking, and what the project aims to explore via 4 key methods. creating a well-connected network of artists and thinkers along the river, conducting place-based research via creative inquiry in collaboration with other sectors, provide a framework of professional development opportunities in person and online, and demonstrate how deeply socially engaged and place-responsive creative practice can lead to quality contemporary art in regional Australia. We will be working across 4 touchstone towns, acknowledging, of course, the river doesn't begin in Albury and end in Mildura, but we have chosen a fair geographical spread, and these 4 regional hubs act as centres for the surrounding smaller communities. So what will this look like in practice? Over the next 2 years, we will be running an online space. So yes, the pandemic has meant a huge shift towards adjusting to online meetings, while also creating the Zoom fatigue effect. So our online spaces will aim to provide a safe and open space for artists and thinkers to engage in a meaningful way. We aim to create thoughtfully facilitated Zoom sessions, including guest speakers, presentations, sharing of processes, and provocations to continue the work in between sessions, as well as plenty of time to break out and get to know each other on a more personal level. We're also looking into an online platform for everyone to access in which we can stay in touch, share our thoughts, ideas, and work. As the online community will include independent artists, producers, and arts workers, we hope from this that there will be opportunities to spark new collections and collaborations along the river. We will also be conducting place-based research labs. These labs will be held in the 4 touchstone areas and aim to explore the uniqueness of each place, as well as how the river unites us. We'll be starting in Mildura very soon and heading upstream over the next year. The Borders creative team will collaborate and engage with people in the community who have an interest in and connection to the river, such as artists, social researchers, farmers, ecologists, First Nations, environmentalists, etc. These labs will include facilitated talking sessions and creative workshops led by Borders artists. And then in the following year, the work that has been developing over the course of the online sessions and the first round of research labs will be further refined by a series of second labs running back downstream from Albury to Mildura. There will be opportunities to present work back to community and a final symposium in Mildura where we will come together to reflect on the process, our impact, and how we may continue to collaborate moving forward. Now, I would like to introduce you to the 4 regional partners that we have hosting us in each community. So I would like to start with Arts Mildura. Arts Mildura exists to provide regional people equitable access to high quality arts and culture. They achieve this by producing an annual program of multi-arts festivals and events which socially, culturally and economically enrich the communities of the Mallee in Northwest Vic. They are a 35-year-old organisation with a rich history of elevating place-responsive visual arts, performance, music and writing. And we have with us today Dean Worthington, the Creative Director of Arts Mildura. If you would like to unmute yourself and I'll fire a question at you. Hi.
Hi, how you going?
Beautiful artworks by Sonia Hodge behind you.
Yes, I thought this was a nice little touch.
Lovely, lovely. So Arts Mildura have been integral in attracting and administering this funding. How does the Borders project fit in with Arts Mildura's new strategy for the org?
Look, the new strategy is really, it really takes notice of where we are. One thing about the Mildura and the Mallee and the locations which we are, and this would go, it's sort of not exactly rocket science, but we can change our program, we can change our staff, we can change everything about our organisation, but the one thing which we can't change is where we are, and we wouldn't want to change it because we love where we are. We love the Mallee, we love the Murray, we love our neighbours in New South Wales and South Australia. We live in a really interesting geographical location, one, you know, which is unique to this country and unique across the world. So the new vision and the new strategy for Arts Mildura is really to speak about the place, to bring extraordinary events to this place, to talk with our local artists, with our local ecologists, with our local people, and to really bring out the vibrancy through creative means that is this extraordinary place that is the Mallee, and, you know, working in collaboration with our partners along the Murray in Echuca and Swan Hill and Albury Wodonga. We're really excited. We're also, one big thing that we have been focusing on in the past little while is really advocating and being a leader for regional voices. Unfortunately, you know, and we've seen this, you know, through the pandemic, and, you know, it's interesting that you speak about, you know, that this is specifically focusing on borders and it comes from, you know, these border closures. But, you know, for far too long, regional people have been either ignored or not taken seriously. We can't be expected to do the same things that the city does, and we can't, you know, the dialogue is very much a city-centric dialogue. So one thing which we're doing, you know, whether it be in an arts perspective, whether it be with our local health services, it's about advocating for regional voices and understanding that things are different in the regions, but they're no different, they're no less, they are just as wonderful, but things have to be done slightly differently. So that's, you know, a big part of what we're doing here. And this is, you know, we're really excited to be working with you, Rach. We love you, and we really value the work that you do, and we just couldn't be more excited about working in collaboration with all these wonderful people that we see on the screen.
Beautiful. Thanks, Dean. And now I'd like to introduce the ACRE project, who are based in Swan Hill. ACRE standing for Australia's Creative Rural Economy. ACRE hosts art residencies, seminars and events looking at ways that art and agriculture intercept with history, community resilience and future planning. Headed up by the team at Swan Hill Regional Arts Gallery, the ACRE project is a collaboration between artists, farmers, community development workers and arts workers from across the region. Since 2009, the ACRE project has been running on-farm residencies, seminars, workshops and exhibitions. And we have Ian Tully here with us today, who heads up ACRE and the Swan Hill Regional Art Gallery. And Ian, I would love to hear from you. How does the creative response to the river align with the work that you were doing in the Swan Hill region, particularly working in the intersections between art and farming?
Hi, Rach. Hi, everyone. Look, well, it's just inherent. Everything is about the river and of course north of here in particular, the Riverina, an absolute network of creeks and rivers flowing south and west, and then some from northern Victoria as well. I guess the ACRE project is very much about bringing art and artists to small and rural communities. And when I say small communities, not just small towns, but actually onto farms as well. So we've had this long-standing interest in the industry around this community in particular. Well, actually not this year, but really since we've begun, we've always worked across the region. So not just Victoria, Swan Hill's Victorian Gallery, of course, but we don't see that border here, and we try and break that border down as much as we can and work across New South Wales, various shires. So we worked across 4 shires last year, and obviously the 2 states. But we're really looking forward to getting involved in this in some way and see how this just evolves. We had a really good talk last week when you visited, and it's very exciting. So really pleased to be involved in it.
Awesome.
I don't know if I've answered any questions there, but that's okay.
No, that's perfect. Thank you. Okay, so next I'd like to introduce the Bridge Art Project, who are based in Echuca, Moama. The Bridge Art Project is aiming to establish a world-class, groundbreaking arts precinct in Moama, combining gallery-based curation and exhibition of contemporary art with an extensive 8-hectare site on which cultural history will be represented and explored through installations, sculptures, nature-based programs, and digital technologies. To date in Echuca, the focus has been on post-European settlement, the paddle steamers, the wharf, the timber industry. The focus of the Bridge Art Project will be on the arts, immersed in nature, and will strongly feature First Nations art and history. And we have Jackie here with us today, who is part of the Bridge Art Project Committee, and this beautiful image here of the recent work by Ash Keating on their site. Jackie, thanks for joining us. I just wanted to ask, how do you think the creative process of the Borders Project will help the Bridge Art Project with the activation and realisation of the site that you are working on?
We're really interested in what you're doing, obviously because it's there's a regional focus and an ecological focus, and the idea of bringing, I mean, so far for us, there's been a lot of talk about, you know, funding and locations, and there's been very little engagement from an artistic perspective and from a community perspective. So we also think to start a conversation with the First Nations people, which we started this conversation 8 years ago, but to really get into a meaningful discussion with the Yorta Yorta people about this land and what the borders mean and what the gallery means, how we're going to integrate Echuca Moama tourism into the full picture, to get artists onto the site to discuss the site and the project and the plans together on country. It sounds like it would be really beneficial for us at this point. Yeah.
Awesome. We're very excited about working with you guys. Now move on to introducing Murray Arts. Murray Arts is one of 14 regional arts boards in New South Wales and also part of the Regional Arts Victoria Cultural Network. Their aim is to actively assist the ongoing development of and participation in arts and culture throughout the Albury-Wodonga border region. They contribute directly to the arts and cultural lifeblood of the border region by working directly with individuals, communities and local government to assist them to deliver strategic projects in our region. And this morning we have Alice Fisher, the Executive Director of Murray Arts, with us. Hi.
Good morning, everyone. Sorry, I have a terrible voice today.
That's okay. What do you think the impact of the Borders Project can potentially be for the arts community in your region?
Well, like every community along the border, we have just been fractured over the last couple of years. A tag or a slogan of the Albury-Wodonga 2 councils was 2 cities, 1 community. And that tagline, it doesn't exist anymore. And we don't live in 1 community. We live in 2 really separate communities now, which is really, really sad. So I really see this as an opportunity for our creative community to start a healing process here in Albury-Wodonga, and to just help everyone process what happened in the last 2 years and to bring us back together. I think we all have PTSD about, do we need a border permit? What do I need to do here that's separately to there? You know, on a personal note, I had a baby in 2020 and I live in Albury, but the maternity hospital's in Wodonga. So it was a nightmare to even birth a child at that time. And we need to reconnect with each other. And as creatives, we need to help the community to to be able to come back together and to be able to be one community again and not be divided by this hypocrisy of this border.
Great, thanks, Alice. What I'm going to do to start with is just do a quick introduction for the people you see on your screen. So starting with Peter Fraser. Peter works widely in site-specific performance, dance, improvisation, and installations. His primary focus is the transformations that occur where body and environment meet and mingle. His guiding practice is body weather, which is fundamentally an attitude of continual inquiry into embodiment in place. His workshops aim to release the body from habit so that it is available to transformation by imagination and bodily sensation. Peter co-founded the Environmental Performance Authority, which focuses on site-specific projects that are participatory in their development and in their implementation. Peter will be facilitating workshops during our research labs, undertaking place-based research, and will be part of our online community.
Thank you.
Next, we have Linda Luke. Linda has worked across multiple platforms in the performing arts for the past 20 years as a performer, choreographer, director, mentor, and facilitator. In her work, she aims to deepen sensitivity and excavate the subtle undercurrents we experience in relationship to self, each other, and the environment. Linda's work revolves around diminishing the human-centric and aims to reinstate a focus on the rich diversity of non-human elements that exist in our environment. A major part of Linda's artistic practice is to engage with marginalised communities to mentor and develop artistic practice through movement, performance, and filmmaking. Linda develops frameworks and methods to give to various communities for them to engage and create from. Linda will be facilitating workshops as part of our research labs in our communities with a focus on creative recovery and be a part of our online community. McEwan is the Artistic Director of the CAD Factory, an artist-led organisation creating an international program of new, immersive and experimental work guided by authentic exchange, ethical principles, people and place. Vic's contemporary art practice works with sound, video, photography, installation and performance, with a particular interest in site-specific work that creates new dynamics by working with diverse partners and exploring difficult themes within the lived experience of communities and places. Vic aims to use his work to contribute to and enrich broader conversations about the active role that the arts sector can play in reimagining a better world. Vic is currently mentoring our creative team on socially engaged practice. He'll be part of our online community and be assisting us in the development of new work in collaboration with communities. And Mark, who we've met this morning, Mark is a qualified archaeologist who studied at the Australian National University, majoring in archaeology and anthropology. Mark has spent many years recording and protecting Aboriginal heritage sites throughout Australia and has been at the forefront of recording biological information from Australian Aboriginal ancestral remains, contributing significantly to the return of ancestral remains to various Aboriginal communities throughout Australia. Mark is our cultural advisor for Borders and will be assisting us in connecting to First Nations people in community and contributing to our place research. And Craig Dunn, who is our resident ecologist. Craig found his way to the Mallee like many others by following the Murray River. After working as a freshwater ecologist in the Albury area, He moved downstream to Mildura in 2018 to work at the Murray-Darling Freshwater Research Centre. He quickly took root in the region, developing an understanding of the deeper connections within the community and find his sense of place within it. Craig brings to the Borders project a passion for the unique ecology of the Murray River regions and an innate curiosity for the subtle nuances of landscapes. Craig is our resident ecologist, providing a resource for us to better understand the natural ecologies of the places we work and reflecting on how that knowledge can be applied to better understanding the broader social ecologies of place.